Fast forward, you need come over channel your social, so I'm saying, how say AGH Politics Avenue. Podcast or set training because we headlines. Only a jumble need to be up some more. I need him young Braximus and AD can you message which must subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, share na for friends or answer into NKB. Now, Yakoyan Samsoa, former administration, another Dankwa Akuffo aircraft to be a otoye, edema a year, Ghana Police Service, and miensa mwa na epanya ofa so a oto aircraft one amfa parliamentary approval and we need free hon so a sa aircraft is not due for purpose next what cause of financial loss to the state I mean say NDC for ama your phone paying for be attracts here. Ene omu etimi isusuja edigu omuchima enya semkoto akra ase omu probe into the matter there you'll be called for questioning enti yemu ransin ni rene ko ene ne ba AGH Politics Avenue.
There are many calls demanding an immediate review of all existing aircrafts within the country's fleet to authenticate their safety. The majority in Parliament says the checks must be extended to the recently purchased helicopters for the Ghana Police Service, arguing they are not fit for purpose. We can now speak to Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, and he's also a member on the Defence Committee in Parliament, Ernest Nogbe. Good afternoon, Honourable. Quickly, let's talk about the 3 helicopters that you say are not fit for purpose. Why do you say that?
Yes, sir.
Well, Honourable, come again with that. Honourable, I'm asking why you think that, first of all, we need to do a review of our fleet, and then 3 helicopters we have purchased at this time are not fit for purpose. It would appear we have lost Ernest Nogbe over the phone lines, but essentially, questions are now being raised not only about the crash site, the response of the military, response of emergency team, the entire emergency response architecture of this country to the incident. Questions are now being asked about whether the effectiveness of that, whether or not the right things were done, whether the response was swift, whether it was effective enough to have prevented a defilement of the crash site as far as evidence is concerned, but also the dignity of the victims of the crash. Now we are being told that it's important that we also check the fleet we have as far as our air machines or air vehicles are concerned. So far we hear that 3 helicopters may not be fit for purpose. And we'll find out briefly from Ernest Nogbe, who is a member of the Defence Committee in Parliament, why that is the case and what could be the solution to that at this time.
Once again, extend my condolences to the bereaved family, especially my 2 brothers, Honorable Mutala and then Dr. Omani Buama. Yes, it's a great loss to us, but we take solace in the fact that one day we will all be called to account for our stewardship. Yes, we are mourning, but the fact still remains that there are some aircraft that were purchased for the Ghana Police Service a few years ago that are not fit for purpose. The fact still remains that somewhere in the previous administration, Parliament approved a loan for the Ghana military to purchase some 6 fighter aircraft from Czech Republic. That is the L-39 new generation. But as we speak now, that has not seen the light of day. We approved the loan in Parliament. Some committee members even went to Czech Republic to also inspect the aircraft. But as we speak now, that has not come to light. But the government went behind Parliament, something that did not come to Parliament for approval, to purchase 3 helicopters from South Africa. And those 3 helicopters, as we speak now, are not fit for purpose because these are very old helicopters that were purchased for the Ghana Police Service. And they even train pilots. They train pilots purposely for these 3 helicopters. But as we speak, if it is today that these pilots that we spent money on will fly any aircraft or even a helicopter, we are yet to see. So the purchase of that helicopter was done in secrecy, in the darkness, did not come to Parliament for any approval, no value for money. And as we speak now, the aircraft had not even made 1,000 kilometers of journey. When the aircraft came, when the helicopter came, it was a fanfare. Oh, we purchased 3 helicopters for the Ghana Police Service. And for the first time they flew that aircraft and landed. God saved them, and they landed till today. It is in the hangar. Nobody is using it. It's not fit for purpose because this is a very old aircraft that was purchased for the Ghana Police Service. And that is why I'm saying that this is a financial loss to the state, and it must be investigated.
Investigated, like you say, it must. Would this be in the purview of the Defense and Interior Committee? Because you say that the previous administration purchased these 3 helicopters outside the oversight responsibility of Parliament.
Outside, exactly so, outside the oversight responsibility of Parliament. And the committee, anything that came to the committee during that period was approved because we also realized that the Ghana Armed Forces or the security services needed to be retooled. And so anything that they brought, like the upgrading of the 37 military hospital, we approved it for them. And they also brought something we call the purchase of these cameras in all the cities. We also approved that. But whether those things were also purchased is another matter in Parliament. Because we saw the necessity, the need for us to retool the security services, not only the Ghana Armed Force or the Air Force, but even the police service, the immigration service, the prisons, and all of those, the fire service, we needed to retool them. So that is why we were of the view at the committee that anything that will inure to the benefit of the people or that will protect the sanctity of our nation, because when there's any extremist, as we speak now, it is the security agencies that will take up the challenge. And so we needed to equip them. We cannot be using yesterday's equipment to fight today's battle or to solve today's problems.
Right.
And so
just finally on the review, where do you stand in the recent criticism which is fast coming to the Ghana Armed Forces over the response time to the 8 as well? Because many people are saying that it could have been better, it should have been better.
I didn't get that well.
I'm asking that outside of the review of the aircrafts that needs to be done, there are those who are asking questions about the 8s that crashed, unfortunately, last week. Criticism of the Ghana Armed Forces that their response time was not the best and it should have been better.
Oh, well. I wouldn't want to go into that for now because we are still investigating the incident, how it occurred. And if you remember where the incident occurred, it took even the locals almost 2 hours to get to the destination. And I'm not sure there's any barracks around that area that could have propelled the military to fast-track any action. So I wouldn't want to go into this detail to blame the military at this point in time. But it was meant to happen, and it has happened. What we need to do is to chart a course so that in the near future, we avert almost all these things happening to us, because we cannot lose 8 officials. You see, there are so many things that we needed to do in the future to make sure that these problems do not occur. Even the security architecture, when I talk of retooling, there are not only the equipment, even the human resource in the security service. We need to do a lot of engagement.
Right, Honourable, we'll leave it here. That's Dr. Ernest Nogbe. He's Member of Parliament for Ashaiman. as well as a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, speaking to us this afternoon.
We can now cross over to a reporter who is also watching the funeral of the Deputy National Security Coordinator, Alhaji Muniru Limuna. Lord Addo Asare has been speaking to mourners at the final funeral rites. Lord, what can you report right now? Oh, it appears Lord cannot hear me at this time. Alhaji Muniru Limuna is one of 8 men who perished in that helicopter crash last Wednesday. We saw the final funeral rites over the weekend on Sunday. There is a final phase of that as far as Islamic tradition and family customary rights are concerned, which is what is happening now, where Lord Addo Asare is for us. Now let's try Lord again, if he can give us the very latest as far as this is concerned. Lord, what can you report?
Adria held in honor of the former Deputy Director of the National Security, former Deputy of the National Security Coordinator, Alhaji Mohammed Muniru Lumina, who was part of the 8 who lost their lives tragically in that helicopter crash last week, which was the 8th of August. Now, today, several words were used for him. Now, 3 words that stood out for me, especially by President Mahama, was that he was someone who was hardworking, he was extremely reliable, and he was full of integrity. By and large, this has been the words which has been thrown out describing Alhaji. Now, former President Mahama also indicated that a fund will be established and will actually be announced on Friday, which we know will be the day that a state funeral is being held for the victims. Now, he indicated that that fund has been set up to, as it were, make the public or persons donate for the education and to cater for the children of the victims who perished in that helicopter crash. Now, some more ministers of state have been speaking. For example, the former Minister for Environment, Samuel Abujunapo, he indicated that this man, Alhaji, he was more than an uncle. He also talked about the fact that he was very reliable as a minister. He was very hardworking. Now, the Member of Parliament for Salaga South, Mahama Zuera Ibrahima, she indicated that he practically picked her up, Alhaji, I should say, practically picked her up and groomed her to what she is today. And so she's also been full of praise for Alhaji Muniru Lumina. I have with me here the Member of Parliament for Daboya Mangariku. He's in the person of SK Mahama. He's going to share with me what he makes of Alhaji Muniru Lumina. I mean, he's departed. We've been praying for him. But what are your words of fondest memory of him so far? And what did you make of him as Minister of State?
Well, I mean, words cannot even describe how we feel about the loss. The President, His Excellency John Mahama, has summarized it in 3 words. Said he's a very dedicated, selfless individual who has touched lives in the entire community of Savannah and beyond. And so it's a great loss. For me as a person, he's a nephew. I mean, the mother is my sister. And so both Wasipeda, Zaboya, and Damango, we are all grieving because we have lost an illustrious son in the person of Alhaji Mohammed Muniru Limuna. It's quite irreparable, but Allah says He gives and He takes, and so we take solace from that.
I mean, you being his nephew, what are some of the things that readily come to you when you think about his memory?
Yeah, I mean, is a very selfless individual. I mean, if I mention the number of people he has groomed, number of students he has paid school fees, number of families he has uplifted from the doldrums, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, so this is a great person. This is a person who has touched many lives, not just in the community that he's come from, but the entire country. You would notice from the people who have come here that each and every person has a connection with him. And everybody will say, oh, a day before he died, we had a phone call. A day before he died, I had this to do with him. That is such a person we are talking about. I mean, he's such a great chap. And we pray that Allah will have mercy on his soul.
Kemini, so words of SK Mahama, the MP for Daboya Magnarigu, and he's also the chairperson of the Parliamentary Legal Affairs. He's been eulogizing Alhaji Mohammed Lumina Muniru, outlining how he's affected him, his career path, and essentially him as a person. Several people have been gathered here to eulogize the man. This is actually the residence of Alhaji Mohammed Lumina Muniru, where he's being eulogized. The prayers are being offered on his behalf. Earlier, the chief imam, the national chief imam, prayed for his soul that God will forgive his sins and that his deeds will be seen, and then he'll be blessed in that regard.
Lord Eduasare with that live report. You're still here on News Central, live on TV3. We'll now bring you by the numbers.
Also here on News Central, by the numbers coming your way right now. But just before we do that, there's some communication coming through from the National Communications Authority suspending the license of some 6 radio stations. I want to take you through that statement verbatim and what exactly it says. It's dated the 12th of August, 2025. And it reads that the National Communications Authority has suspended the operations of 9 radio stations for various infractions. And so the number is 9. 9 radio stations having their licenses suspended. The first 6 failed, refused, and neglected to comply with the regulatory amnesty by taking no action. Consequently, the operations of the following stations have been suspended. Remember that a number of these stations had their licenses suspended. The president stepped in. There was an amnesty. Well, these first 6, which I'm going to name, did not take advantage of that amnesty. That's the communication by the NCA. And they include Don Plus Multimedia Limited, Dreams Ghana Media Limited, Jam Multimedia Limited, Jewel Group Limited, Pandai, Star Community Radio, and Unique Gateway Communication Limited. These 6 did not take advantage of the amnesty as granted by the president. Well, the other 6, according to the statement, were violations, and the stations did not take steps to remedy the breaches during the amnesty period. And amongst many other things, these are the 3: Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited, Accra, that's their frequency 95.9. Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited 101.3 Kumasi, and then Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited 101.3 Takrady. And so all of the 3 Wuntumi radio stations, as captured in this statement, have had their licenses terminated because of violations the NCA says they did not rectify during the amnesty period. And that's the latest by way of details from the National Communications Authority. We'll have the full explanations and all of it when you log on to 3news.com. But right now, let's bring you by the numbers, because the country is continuing to mourn the loss of a military helicopter crash which claimed the life of some 8 individuals on August 6th. Now, as the nation grieves, attention is turning to the official timelines which point to significant delays in search and rescue efforts and are fueling a growing demand for answers. Today on By the Numbers, we put the matter to a bit more scrutiny. We know, amongst many other things, the time the helicopter took off, 9:12, on a routine flight to Obuasi for that cooperative mining launch, was expected to arrive at 10:02. But what are the things and what are the questions being asked and what were the expectations as with regards protocols that should have guided everything that we saw. We've seen, amongst many other things, a member of the NDC communications team heavily criticized the military. We'll seek to subject that to a bit more expert opinion, but right now, here's what we know based off on officially communicated detail to us by authorities. And so, from what we know, that flight duration was expected to be 50 minutes, taking off at 9:12, expected time of arrival being 10:02, but in everything that we saw happen, it took 3 hours, 41 minutes for the Ghana Armed Forces to officially communicate to the entire public that the aircraft had gone off radar. And that was at 13:43, that's 1:43. That's the time they communicated. It doesn't suggest whether or not the internal communication also took that long, but based off on official communication to the Ghanaian people, that's the time. Well, in terms of the search and rescue trigger, we know that after no contact with the aircraft, that's supposed to happen 30 minutes after there's a difficulty in being able to establish contact with the aircraft. And then we know as well that it took us 4 hours, 18 minutes after the flight took off for a confirmation to come from the Chief of Staff in that televised address of the crash and the death of the victims as well. But let's walk you through a bit more in terms of the detailed timeline. And we've done a bit of it already, time of departure, expected time of arrival, when, amongst many other things, per our own conjecture, we should have been seeing search and rescue deployed because the expected time of arrival was what, 10?
And we and some who team course watching on so Mamma so Jimbre Award, as an so bad in the Adomiani, we are in Shaming, not in for the Chinsey and San.